Trump has not pandered to the leaders of the evangelical movement, but the Christians are out there voting for him anyway. So that's so that tells us something for future Republican candidates about well, as long as I get the nomination, they're going to vote for us. They're going to vote for me anyway, and maybe I don't have to pander to them to such a degree. Also, he hasn't raised nearly as much money as Hillary Clinton. He's been competitive without all that money, and also we'll find out later today whether that ground game matters as much as they tell us. The ground game being, of course, having lots of volunteers, getting people out and helping them to vote. Donald Trump hasn't got much of a ground game because he hasn't organised one himself, and plus, he's fighting his own party. Well,
he has asked his followers to keep a close eye on things at polling sites, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, whether you like Donald Trump or trust Donald Trump or not, it is important that this, after such a dirty campaign, is seen to be a fair poll. And there's a couple of states, I think, Atlanta, and one other that escapes me. There's already been some questioning over. I think in Oklahoma, the polling system broke down for a while and had to be brought back online. And in Atlanta, there's been some questions over whether people have been able to make a provisional vote. Apparently, that was cut off for a time. That means that if you haven't confirmed your eligibility to vote, you can still vote on the day and they'll confirm it later in the week. Yeah. Apparently that was cut off. So there's, bits and pieces. There's kind of a little bit of niggle, I suppose, going on around the place. The social media thing I find really interesting, Mitch. I remember in 2005 when I was working for Paul Holmes over at Prime Television, it was the first election campaign where we saw bloggers start to put their oar in. And I remember pitching a story to Pip Keane, who was the executive producer. I wanted her to let me do a story about how bloggers will, from now on, be major influencers on election campaigns. And nobody was very interested in the story back then because they really didn't believe the bloggers would, have much influence ever, because it was quite a new thing. But now social media, as we've seen with Trump, even one man tweeting at 3:30 in the morning can make a massive difference.
But I really think the big one for the world and for us, and this is what I'm interested in listeners, about, is about free trade. Now, it wasn't just Trump, it was Trump and Bernie Sanders in this campaign. Both turned their back on free trade. Hillary Clinton, the Clintons are free traders. They've liked that. She's now saying, the TPPA is now not a done deal. We're sitting here in New Zealand thinking we don't like the TPPA because it just benefits American corporations.
I know,
and they're saying it doesn't,
isn't it?
It's all right. But here's the thing. This is what is the unknown and what's slightly frightening to me. Is the world going to turn its back on free trade? And let's remember the historical experience. Let's remember after the Depression, or during the Depression, when countries became very, very protectionist again, what does that lead to? It leads to bad economies and it leads to war. That is the concern. And for New Zealand is a small country that relies upon trading. If the world starts to turn its back on free trade again, is that a good thing for New Zealand in the world, or is that a bad thing? Globalization is killing various communities off. Free trade is killing certain sectors of society off, mainly white people in rich countries. Globalization has lifted the lives of millions of people throughout the world, particularly in the Asian area. But what you're seeing in countries like America, where you see traditional white working class people and what have you, have been disadvantaged by globalization. So are we going to see not the end of free trade, but a limit to free trade? And what will be the consequence of that for the world and New Zealand? That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Oh, you can weigh in on any of this. Julie, we will take a brief break and we'll be right back to your call after this. 0800 this is
Radio Live. News Hub update.
A polling location in California is currently in lockdown after a shooting happened nearby. CNN is reporting at least 2 people were wounded in the incident in Azusa, northeast of Los Angeles. Two children who were badly injured from a falling tree at Discovery's Educare in Epsom, an Auckland preschool, have been released from hospital. New Zealand Rugby's launched a review of its organisation with a high-profile panel at the helm. The panel includes former All Blacks Michael Jones and Kevin Mialamu, Olympic gold medalist Lisa Carrington and the head of the World Anti-Doping Agency. A number of Pike River families and supporters will protest at the mine this weekend in an 11th hour bid to be allowed to send a team into the drift. Anna Osborne, whose husband Milton was killed, says the mine could be sealed as early as next Friday. And if their protest falls on deaf ears, they'll be considering their legal options. I'll have more news for you at 1 o'clock.
This is Afternoon Talk on Radio Live. Call 0800 844 747. 0800 This is Live. Wellington Community notices. With 9i Dental Clinic's teeth whitening service, beautiful smiles may be easier than you think.
Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous, otherwise known as FA, holds weekly meetings in Wellington every Tuesday, 7 till 8:30 p.m. at St Peter's Anglican Church on the corner of
US election campaign like no other.
You can do anything.
That's horrifying.
We've got you front row seats as America decides.
I have a feeling I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not? Witness history as it happened.
They have rigged it from the beginning.
As America's 45th president is elected.
Never seen anything like this.
The News Hub US election special, 5 o'clock tonight on 3.
And so not on polling on the day, but when they've been asked in the weeks and days leading up to this election who they'll be voting for, they haven't been willing to admit that they're going to vote Trump. So whether that will make a difference, we're yet to see. In fact, we'll see in about 11 minutes, 12 minutes, the first polls close. And we should get some exit polling numbers in right after that. Hello, Steve. We'll pop you in before the break. Hello.
Yeah, hi there, guys. Hey, listen, just quickly about globalization and free trade. One thing I did pick up on what Trump was saying, and I thought was pretty positive, and you haven't heard of any other leader speaking like this, but he was going to put a lot of the big corporations in the US on notice that he's going to slap them. If they move offshore, he's going to slap them with big tariffs. And I think, that's not a bad thing, is it? Because we're living in a day and age now where we even know in New Zealand, look at telecom, the big telcos, right? They've always been making hundreds of millions of dollars. But because of globalization, free trade, and the tariffs are down, they can now go and set up business elsewhere, right? Make another $50, $100 million a year on top of their bottom line, and ship out all the, outsource all the labour, and that hollows out, our industry here, and that seems to be happening all over the world. What Trump's doing, actually putting these companies that would be doing the same thing in the US on notice, because why should these big companies they're already profitable, but they can be more profitable, but is that really good enough reason?
No. This is the heart of the matter, and this is why that Trump has got such traction. The thing about it is, it all sounds tempting and nice, but what happens if the other? He said he'll slap tariffs on American companies that move offshore, but it also means slapping tariffs on imports in order to enable, his local producers. So for a country like New Zealand, reliant on trading, do we really want to see the barriers come up? We know that that globalization has had the same effect in New Zealand, and I actually welcome talking about it, Steve, because I think you make really good points, because there are lots of downsides to globalization. And what really worries me, and what I don't like about it, is we have this massive worldwide homogenization, and where you have traditional communities and places where people do things their way. All the rest, the diversity of the world is almost under threat by globalization.
And that was what was planned. Yeah. Let's not forget, at the end of World War II.
That's right.
It was envisaged that in terms of government, the world would be kind of carved up between the main players, and that hasn't happened, obviously. But there are still people who favour a very open border.
But, Steve, it's the same thing with it's like with the euro and with Brexit, isn't it? It's not, people keep casting it as it's just about immigration, but it's also about, you look at Europe and you think about what they're trying to create in all those wonderful countries with all their separate and different cultures. What does it mean when we're all one big amorphous worldwide mass? It doesn't sound like much of a world to me.
Well, the problem is, right, the US, right, they can set the terms of trade because everyone's going to want to do trade with them regardless of whether there's tariffs or not.
Well, and also because the dollar is the reserve currency.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've seen, even with money printing, the US dollar has remained strong. Yeah. It always will do. Look, that's why they can set the terms, but we don't understand it yet because we do rely on a bit of globalisation because we want the tariffs off because we do dairy, right?
That's right.
But we're not seeing actually a good deal for us in dairy with this Trans-Pacific, trade that
was the major argument against it at the time.
So
Thanks,
nothing's black and white about this stuff.
No. 0800, this is live. We need to take a break now because we are under 8 minutes away from the first polls closing. John, I will pick up your call right after this. 0800, this is live.
Live. What's your kind of news? Sport.
It'll proceed with controversial changes to the Resource Management Act. As Jenna Lynch reports, it can be passed because of a new deal with the Māori Party.
A controversial overhaul to the Resource Management Act, which National has failed to get across the line for years, has been resurrected by the Māori Party. Environment Minister Nick Smith has appeased the pub.
To the US election, and a polling location in California is in lockdown after a shooting nearby. CNN is reporting at least 2 people were wounded in the incident in Azusa, northeast of Los Angeles. It has a high crime rate and there's speculation the shooting was not politically motivated. Polling in some states has closed and preliminary results from Kentucky and Indiana show that Donald Trump will win there by a large margin. Around 1% of votes have been counted so far, with results trickling in from the eastern states. Donald Trump has an overall lead, sitting on 69%, with Hillary Clinton behind on 27%. Those in vital battleground states such as Virginia, North Carolina and Ohio will provide initial clues of the possible winner. Hillary Clinton fans are hoping the opinion polls are right.
Hopefully it puts Hillary Clinton in and shows Donald Trump and all his supporters that we don't need that kind of mindset in our country.
A political expert says Donald Trump's threats to build a wall along the Mexican-US border could be his undoing. US correspondent Carol Ramos says early voting shows Florida's large Latino population is not voting for the Don.
The very first time he came out to announce his candidacy, he alienated many, many Latino voters. And then he didn't come back out and say, no, maybe I was wrong. No, he kept saying, we're going to build a wall.
And polls are about to close in another 6 states. The government aims to get 50,000 people into apprenticeships within the next 4 years. An extra $10 million will be directed to the work-based training drive, taking next year's total spend to $1.
News Hub on Radio Live with David and Maria's Carpet.
It's 1:03.
Maria's Carpet and Vinyl Warehouse in Strathmore. Now sport.
And Trump hoping to have some more results through for you soon. All eyes on Florida, of course, and in a little while we'll have not only Willie Jackson when he turns up, but we'll have Rob Salmond at 1:30 now. It's quite good actually that we've moved him to 1:30 because I think we'll have some more results by then. 0800, this is live. We'll take a break. Back with you shortly.
Willie and combos from $10 a week and 17-inch combos from just $12 a week. Only at Mag & Turbo with 12 months interest-free plus 36 months to pay. Normal finance now, lending criteria applies. So see in store for full T's and C's with Mag & Turbo at the Ewan Bridge end of Woburn Road, Lower Hutt.
Hi, Pat Baker, El Cheapo Cars. We have a huge range of cars arriving from Japan every day. Trade-ins welcome, and check out our finance. Borrow $8,000, pay back $80 a week. Borrow $10,000, $100 per week. elcheapo.co.nz.
At El Cheapo, they have more than just cars. New tyres starting at $65, new batteries starting from $88. Also tow bars starting at $300. Alloy wheels starting at $400. Terms, conditions, credit criteria and fees apply. See Pat and the team at El Cheapo, 17 Raiha Street, Porirua.
Want your toothache sorted painlessly?
Hey, I could put the Hex on here.
You could.
I could put the Hex
on. The mockers on it.
Yeah, it could be, but we'll see what Rob Salmond says. But I reckon it's all over in Florida because the Latinos are coming out to shut Donald down. We'll find out what Rob Salmond thinks.
Let's go to him right now. G'day, Rob.
Hi, how's it going?
Not too bad. Do you agree with Willie? Is it all over for Trump now?
Well, I think certainly if this result in Florida holds and those 29 electoral college votes go to Hillary Clinton, then Trump doesn't have a viable path to the presidency from there. The only thing I would say, though, is that those 30% that we have in Florida are all on the Eastern time zone. There's a little bit of Florida that goes across into the Central time zone, or where the polls close later, and that is a more pro-Trump area of Florida. So I'd hold just for now, because I want to see how the rest of Florida gets.
You're a bit ahead of yourself, Jackson.
I want to be Nostradamus here and make the prediction. And then if it goes wrong, you can all blame me.
Well, that's right. Your Nostradamus never had 100% success rate, did he?
That's true. That's true.
It's a good point.
True. But yeah, those really heavily Hispanic counties down in South Florida, they're the ones that have come in. The counties that are yet to come in, where the polls haven't even closed yet, are less Hispanic. So
he could come back. He could come back, Rob.
Well, I think there's a better than even chance that Clinton wins Florida. It's probably about 60-40 given the results we're seeing now. And even if Trump were to win Florida, he also has to run the table in 4 or 5 other swing states where he's behind in order to win the presidency. So everything does favour Hillary Clinton at this point.
Talk to us a bit more broadly, Rob, about demographics, if you would.
Hey, I think Trump's just gone to the lead in Florida.
40, actually, we're looking at live figures, 48.9% to Trump. It's going to flip-flop for a while, I think. Let's not get too exercised about it at this point. It's only like 35%, 40% of the vote counted. No, you may not. You have to stick with your original prediction. You will not be flip-flopping on this show.
Okay.
The demographics of educated whites and women, we've talked about Hispanics. How do the other groups play into it as far as you see it, Rob?
Well, yeah, non-college educated whites, that is, people who are Caucasian, didn't go to university, are the heart of Trump's support. And the turnout among that group does go up and down quite a lot from election to election. They're not they're not a very high turnout, regular turnout group. There is a sign of record turnout across various counties in the United States. We don't yet know what the demographic breakdown of that is. But I'm going to put my stake in the ground on this one too, though, and it's not based on Florida. There are 5 states that Hillary Clinton is leading in that have been swing states in the past, and if she wins all 5, she's been leading in all the polls up to now, she'll win the presidency, and they are Colorado, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Wisconsin. If she wins those 5, and all the polls up to now say she is winning in each of those 5, then she's on 273 already. She wins. So she doesn't need Florida in the way that Trump needs Florida.
No.
That's a lovely, concise explanation of that, actually. Whoever wins, is this undeniably a sea change in American and world politics, and why?
I think if Hillary Clinton wins, probably it's not a sea change. It's certainly the first time we've seen a woman president in the United States, but we've had plenty of female leaders all over the rest of the world, so that's nothing new. But what we will see if Hillary Clinton wins, I think we're going to see most likely the Democrats take the Senate as well if she wins, but there'll be a Republican House still. And that's going to make it really quite difficult because you've got a partisan split in the Congress that would make it quite difficult for Hillary to get too much of her agenda through. You might see the Republican House members dig in, at which point you're unlikely to see a sea change because it'll be so hard for Hillary to get things done. If, on the other hand, Trump wins, it's certainly a sea change, and who knows what kind. That's where we're
that's right.
Wait until January before he gets going and then go along for the ride because we won't have a choice.
Yeah.
Do you share the concern that I've heard some highly respected commentators voice that they don't want him anywhere near the nuclear codes? Should we be that frightened?
The nuclear codes is an interesting one because it's one of those parts of American politics where practice and law have really differed. So the War Powers Act, which is from which I can't remember, means that Congress has to sign off on declaring war. But in practice, Congress does not have any way to sign off on a nuclear strike. So that can be ordered by the executive branch alone, although it will have to involve all of the people in the military following their orders. There's already some talk that some members of the military wouldn't follow their orders in that case, but you only need one member of the military to actually follow the order in order to make it a really big change around the world.
Rob, if Trump was to pull out a miraculous victory, and some of his team apparently are now saying it would be it's a miracle if he wins, it would be the most amazing victory, wouldn't it? When you think about how much has gone against him and how restricted or how limited his vote is, which is sort of white, middle-aged, white men. It's, there's no appeal to the minorities, the women, the gays.
Well, not only no appeal, he's actually slagged them off time and time again, hasn't he?
That's right. So the black communities, it'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it, Rob?
Well, it would certainly be pretty remarkable. So about 70% of the American voting electorate identifies as white. So it's still, a fairly strong majority in the US, particularly through those states geographically in the middle. And it's true that his support is much higher among men than among women. But despite all of the coverage that we've had about, Mr. Trump's various aspects of his personal life, he's still polling really quite good support among white women, right? He's not quite pulling a majority of white women, but he attracts really substantial support among that demographic group as well. And because Caucasian Americans are still a pretty strong majority across the country, you can see how that translates into doing pretty well in a presidential election. But certainly, the idea that someone who's never served in government before, never served in the military before, and has all of these question marks around his personal life can get this close to the presidency is pretty remarkable no matter what happens tonight.
That's true.
Rob, you might be able to help us out here. We've had a text in that says, asks, why does the USA vote on a Tuesday?
Oh, well, it's in the Constitution. It's always the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So that means it can't be Tuesday, November the 1st, but it can be Tuesday, November the 8th, as it is this year. So it was set up in the Constitution back in the 18th century. Exactly why the framers thought Tuesdays were a good idea for voting, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a reasonable answer. Okay, so when are you comfortable to call it?
I think I'd want to see a proper projection in Florida once all the polls are closed, and I'd probably, given how close it is now, they're probably within a point or two. I'd want to see about 80 to 85% of the voting in Florida, and if they're willing to make a call in Florida and that call is for Hillary Clinton, then I'd say it's all over. If the call is for Donald Trump, then we'd move to Pennsylvania and say, well, what's happening in Pennsylvania? If that goes to Hillary Clinton, then it's all over.
Well,
either of those two come in, it's over.
Yeah, but so you're not prepared to make a call right now because you don't have a lot of courage, Rob, right? And this is just
I remember this. It was 4 years ago. You and JT were on the show and tried to goad me into making a call while people were still voting. I'm not making a call until that panhandle of Florida closes off, Pensacola and all of those places around there. I want to see what they're up to before I go final.
Okay. Good on you, Rob. That's Rob Salmon, political analyst and former lecturer in politics at Michigan State.
Oh, well, I'm saying, do you want my predictions or no?
Well, you just made one, and then you said you didn't want to. You wanted to reverse it. Do you want to put your stake in the ground?
Trump's looking a bit handy. North Carolina. Oh, geez, how's that looking? Oh, CNN projection. What do they say? They stand by for the CNN are making a project. Geez, what's that projection on? What's the projection on North Carolina? This is amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Anyway, I stand by my thing. Trump. I'll be really pleased if Trump lost Florida because I like to see the Latino vote make him pay. That's what I would like to see. But you don't know.
It's a revenge vote, isn't it, in a way.
But here's the thing. He has to win it, so he's gone. He's basically gone, you see. So as Rob says, wait till it hits about 70-80% of the vote because it's just fluctuating at the moment between them, isn't it?
Hey Teams asks Charlie on the text, what time will we have projections from the media, do you think? I hope Paddy's got a stab-proof vest on when Trump loses.
I reckon they might start making, they could make projections. If Florida comes in, right? Then they'll make a. So when's Florida come in? When does it hit 80% for Florida? If it hits it by 3:30, then they'll probably make a projection.
Do you think?
Well, they'll make one with Florida comes in,
I think it's likely to be a bit later than that. I think we won't see one until 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
0800, this
Might
is
be
live.
right.
This is time for you to ring in if you want to have your say on what's going on in the United States today. 0800, this is live. 0800 844 747 or send us a text 3920. Keyword live, back in a tick.
Radio Live. News Hub update.
A New Zealand Defence Force search for 3 fishermen off Kiribati has located their vessel. The trio have been missing for over a week, and Orion has just located the boat and will have further detail as it's available. In the US election in the key state of Florida, with 43% of the vote now counted, it's neck and neck with Trump just ahead, 48.9 to 48.2%. Police in California are hunting for a gunman who shot and killed one person and wounded others near a polling booth. A police chopper took at least 2 shooting victims to hospital. Polling centres in the area have been put into lockdown as police hunt the gunman. I'll have more news for you at 2.
This is Afternoon Talk on Radio Live. Call 0800 844 747. 0800 This is Live.
Have you ever dreamed of flying a helicopter? What about the chance to train with one of New Zealand's most experienced instructor pilots, right here in Wellington?
All good, mate? Yeah, loving it.
Heliforce's senior pilot Rick.
Art Studios in the heart of the News Hub newsroom. America Decides with Alison Moore and Willie Jackson on Radio Live.
All right, look at this. We got a key race alert. Look at Florida right now. 65% of the vote is in. And all of a sudden, Hillary Clinton has taken the lead in the state of Florida. She's got a lead of 76,430 over Donald Trump. She's at 49.2%. Donald Trump is at 47.9%. Hillary Clinton is now ahead of Donald Trump in Florida with his 29 electoral votes. In North Carolina, 13% of the vote is now in. Trump is ahead with 74,969 votes over Hillary Clinton, 15 electoral votes in North Carolina. We're getting 3% of the vote in Ohio right now. Trump has a lead in Ohio, 96,000 plus to Hillary Clinton's 82,000 plus, 18 electoral votes in Ohio. We're getting more results coming in our key race alert. In Virginia now, 14% of the vote is in, and Trump has a 73,000 plus vote lead over Hillary Clinton, 54% to 41.2%, 13 electoral votes at stake in Virginia. And in Georgia, only 2% of the vote is in, but Trump has a lead of 31,977. Georgia, Trump has the lead with his 16 electoral votes.
Updates there from CNN. Let's squeeze one call in before the news. Hello, Leslie.
Hello there, you two.
Hi. You've just got a minute.
Well, I think that it's quite a frightening scenario, really, that it's polarised the American people so much, these elections. And I don't know who I want to see win it. All I want to see is stability, because the share markets are going to react with a lot of volatility, I believe.
That is very true. The share markets do not like instability or uncertainty. That is for sure. And of course, we'll have to wait until they wake up tomorrow morning for that. Thanks, Leslie.
Radio Live
Going into the
with
news.
the latest from News Hub. Mary Jane Tomasi.
Kia ora, good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. In the race for the White House, at the moment, all eyes are on Florida, where Hillary Clinton has taken the lead in the biggest battleground state. The Democratic nominee has 50.3% of the vote, while Donald Trump has 46.5%, with 71% of votes counted. News Hub's political editor Patrick Garr, who's in New York, explains why Florida is so important.
You hear a lot about this electoral college and people needing to get 270 votes to win. Florida holds 29 of them. It should be Hillary Clinton's, but it's a big number, and if Donald Trump actually needs those to find a pathway to victory. So without it, he doesn't get anywhere.
Political analyst Rob Salmon told Radio Live's William Alley that he reckons the state is Clinton's to take.
There's a better than even chance that Clinton wins Florida, probably about 60-40 given the results we're seeing now.
Police in California are hunting for a gunman who shot and killed one person and wounded others near a polling booth. A police helicopter took at least 2 shooting victims to hospital. Polling centres in the area have been put into lockdown. A Pike River widow says families will consider their legal options if an 11th-hour protest at the mine on Saturday falls on deaf ears.
This evening, but there is rain from Buller to Fiordland with isolated thunderstorms. Radio Live weather for Wellington. It's clouding over with possible showers this evening, a high of 18. Tonight's low 13 with occasional showers tomorrow.
America Decides. The 2016 race to the White House on Radio Live.
Latest update. As I was saying, latest update in the important states for you in Florida currently. Clinton's actually doing a little better than Obama did in 2012, Willie.
Yeah.
Which kind of gives you some context. 49.3 to Clinton at the moment, 47.8 to Trump. Still very, very close. In Ohio, the margin is a little wider, 53% to Clinton at this point and 43% to Trump, although there's only 26% of the vote being counted there. So a wee way to go.
We're taking calls. I'm interested in what we talked about earlier because Ellie was of the view that, and I think there are a number of people who are of the view that Trump will be particularly damaged after this election. I don't think so. I think he'll become some sort of incredible because what he's done is, as people are saying, doesn't matter that he will lose because he will lose. He's done something that nobody could believe. He's got within a snuff. And it's still not over yet at all of becoming American president. No one in the world would have thought that. Apart from, no, that's not fair, of course. All the maniacs thought that who supported him, but no rationale political commentator predicted that.
No, that's true. Hello, Peter.
Greetings. Well, the Senate, I guess, might, I'm going to sneeze a minute, go to the Democrats a bit more, but the Congress, I think, will stay Republican, definitely.
Yeah.
So I know that Clinton was hoping to have a reasonable enough margin going, into the last couple of weeks of the election so that she could start concentrating not so much on her vote but on other Democrats, particularly in the Senate. So she hasn't been given that room to move, has she?
Well, it would be interesting if Rubio disappears after his comments when he said that Trump was a con man, and then now he supports him. So,
well, he's leading.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Rubio stays. But
yeah. No, he's. I saw they showed him earlier. You're thinking he could get penalised for that stance, but he's. I think he was comfortably ahead last time I looked. Yeah.
I heard ages ago it was 3% lead or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But it just seems that, the Americans who have all these, trade agreements, don't even have elections where the most people with the most votes win, and they can't run elections, and if you're, want to get on the ballot in some cases, you can't, even though their constitution says it. So it just seems to be a very backward country when it comes to the media actually creating the whole episode of who's on the ballot, really.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your call. 0800 This Is Live. Hello, Sean. Hello, Sean.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for waiting.
Hi, I'm an American actually visiting New Zealand, and
welcome.
I would be curious how you think the perception of America has changed in the eyes of the average New Zealander as the result of this election.
Ooh, there's an interesting question. I tell you how I think, and I'm not an average New Zealander, I'm a commentator, but my perception of the United States and the way Americans treat and revere their political system has changed. Do you get what I mean? Once upon a time, before this particular, certainly before the last few months and before this particular presidential race, I assumed that Americans took their democracy extremely seriously and were willing to look upon their president as a person of principle, and that the president had to carry a certain dignity But I don't believe that anymore.
I think your average New Zealander who does not follow American politics, so don't think for one moment that most Kiwis do, because they don't. They are totally fascinated by this, but particularly by the entry of Trump. It's Trump that has captured the imagination or the interest of the people, because, people see him, have seen him in The Apprentice, and they know him as nobody would even, could even contemplate him getting so close as he has. And so it's sort of, it hasn't changed people's views of Americans. It's made, I think, a lot of people think, God, there's something up in America. That's what a lot of people are thinking, given that Trump could go so close to getting the presidency.
Well, a lot of Americans think that too. So thank you guys for answering my question, and I'll be following along as I drive down your West Coast. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Enjoy your time in New Zealand, Sean. We're thrilled to have you here. 0800, this is live. On the line now, Dr. Emily Beausoleil. I hope I've got that name right, Doctor.
Yes, I'm very impressed, actually. It's easy to mispronounce.
Thank you very much. Lecturer in politics at Massey University. Thank you for joining us. At this point in the vote count, give us your impressions. I know that's a very wide question, but I'm interested to hear what you think at this point.
My interest, I'm a democratic theorist. I'm really interested, and that is actually not so much to do with electoral politics. It's more to do with the people that are behind these kinds of groundswells that explain how these certain figures, these bizarre particular figures that are so fascinating to us today, how do they get to be there? And what's behind that? I mean, I hear those questions and what you're saying, where is this racism and sexism coming from? Or are they taking democracy seriously? So who are these people? What did you say for North Carolina or Florida right now? Like, who are these people? That for me is really the vexing fascination. And the other part of that, which is something you just raised actually, which is, what does this mean for democracy? What does this mean going forward? What does it say about the people that are supporting or deeply suspicious of these candidates? And what does it say about the institutions that are meant to provide enough information, education, capacity building that would allow people to make really informed and considered decisions? Both those dimensions.
Let's look closely at Florida with you for a start. Not an hour and a half ago, we heard reports that the Hispanic vote was coming out in strength. And we assumed, I guess, that would be largely in support of Hillary Clinton. Has it turned out that way?
Well, currently, it's actually sort of disconcerting what Rob Salmon said as well, in terms of where the greater proportion of Trump voters will be actually coming up in that state, have yet to appear in those polls.